I had 2 children go through Snyder therapy, one on the autism spectrum and one not. When my daughter was born, she was cute as a button, and when she was an infant, anytime I put her on her stomach, she would scream, get uncomfortable. When she started walking, she toe walked and walked with her hands out like this and would stop in doorways. And I had a toddler by this point, and I'd say, Beth, walk through the door. I never could understand why she would stop in a doorway. And I'd be behind her with groceries and my toddler Nathan, and I'd be stuck. Come on, Beth, walk through the door. I had her in ABA therapy, and she was doing very well, but she was still nonverbal. She had a lot of stimulatory behaviors, and she outgrew stride rights, which kept her from toe walking. So the minute she outgrew her stride rights or was barefoot, up she came. She was terrified of loud noises, blenders, mixers, vacuums. And as parents, I'll be honest, I adapted to her behavior. There's no other way to say it. I would vacuum when she went to sleep. She had a sleep disorder, so she was either dead to the world or awake. So she would sleep for 4 hours, be up for 4 hours, sleep for 4 hours, and that was it, from birth. So I'd be vacuuming at 10 o'clock at night while she was asleep, because it would literally she would shake because the noise hurt her ears. And so even though she was making progress with other therapies like ABA, she was still mainly nonverbal. So I looked up on the internet, and this is back when the Snyders were not in Huntsville, and I found them on the internet and took Beth there and said, I don't understand why she won't walk through a doorway, and I don't understand why sometimes she appears deaf. So they did testing and found that my voice in particular was, when us females get upset, our voice rises like this, doesn't it? So that actually hurt her ears. And the reason she was toe walking is that her brain was perceiving the world as downhill. Think about it. If you walk downhill, you do this. So that's what she was doing. She had small form fields, so her brain wasn't really processing what was in her periphery. So that's why she was walking through doorways. She couldn't tell where the doorway was. And so when Randy explained all this to me, I thought, oh, well, that makes a lot of sense. So they did prism lens work with her and prescribed her prism lenses. And the day she got her prism glasses was the day she quit toe walking. Her OT had been working with her for a couple of years with no improvement. And bada bing, bada bing, same day she quit toe walking. It was absolutely amazing. She also, at the age of 7, went through sensory learning. And I remember halfway through, Mr. Snyder warned me that I may see some regression about halfway through. It had started affecting Beth immediately, and she started regressing. And by this time, she had lots of speech at the age of 7, but during sensory, she lost it and started toe walking and flapping and moaning, and I thought, oh no. So I met Randy at the door in tears. What is this doing to my child? I can't believe I'm doing this. And he told me it's affecting her, it's a good thing. Hang in there, Mom. It'll work itself out. So I did a lot of praying, and I don't know how familiar y'all are with autism, but you generally have to teach them how to point. They don't share things with you. You usually have to ask them direct questions. Well, on day 11, we were in the waiting room after she wasn't talking for 3 or 4 days, and she looked out the window and she said, look, Mom, there's a water fountain. And I burst into tears. To this day, I still burst into tears because I got my child. And it's life-changing, because if I hadn't, she'd still be toe walking and flapping and moaning and not able to communicate. And you remember, Tracy, those days. She got to watch Beth grow, and we had Beth evaluated at Sparks UAB Clinic in Birmingham. They told us in the beginning that we were doing all the wrong therapies, that she would end up in an institution, and we needed to prepare for that, and to stop doing the therapies. She was runner-up in the Alabama State Spelling Bee, and she played percussion in Grissom Band. Percussion, the child who would scream with loud noises. Plays the drums and the mallets. She went through AP classes at Grissom, which is not easy to do. She is now a freshman living in a dorm on her own at UAH. So, I mean, it was life-changing. My son, who goes to Faith Covenant Academy here, I remember when Ms. Dyer first met him, she looked at me and smiled and did her head, and she said, "Have you considered ADHD, Kim?" And I smiled and said, "I got it under control because he's going to go to Snyder." And lo and behold, he also had poorly functional fields, so he wasn't seeing things in his periphery. And he was skipping words and reversing numbers and letters, which made him very far behind in math, didn't it, Mr. Dyer? And so they started him back in fractions. Imagine trying to add fractions when they're not staying still, or your numbers reverse, so the fraction is looking backwards to him. No wonder he couldn't do it. So they started him in fractions. He went through sensory therapy, and it was amazing. We were walking through the parking lot. He used to not be able to find our vehicle in a parking lot. Now it's light green, and there's hardly any in Huntsville. How can you not see it? I'm like, Nathan, it's right there, right there, there. So almost at the end of sensory therapy, we were walking in a parking lot, and he's doing, "Mom, I can see my feet and the van at the same time." I got all excited because I was like, he actually found the van in the parking lot. And what do you mean you can see your feet? And I asked Dr. Schneider, I'm like, "Yeah, he found the van, that's great. And he told me he could see his feet, isn't that funny?" She said, "Kim, can you not see your feet?" And I said, "No, that's what the mirror in the shoe store's for." She said, "Kim, you need to do sensory. Your apples didn't fall too far from your tree." So even I did sensory. And it's amazing. I can stand on a ladder and change a light bulb now. And I actually can see traffic. I thought the mirrors on the side of the van, I thought that's what they were for. I can actually see the cars over here now. So it also worked for me. But the amazing thing with Nathan was, once he went through vision therapy, and I use math as an example because his teachers are here, he jumped in math. It took a year and a half, and he went from third grade math to geometry. Is that right, Mr. Dyer? Yeah. So we don't tutor at Snyder Therapy, but it has the ability for them to integrate and make sense of what is going on. And without them, I wouldn't have either of my child be functioning. And so I was so grateful that when they had a job opening, I was like, me, I will, yeah, me. So I do sensory there, and I love doing it. And I just had to tell you, I mean, it was life-changing, so much so that I now have a daughter in college and a mostly happy boy in high school. You know, he's a teenager, he thinks he knows everything, but that has nothing to do with sensory integration.